Welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho. We're starting out things today looking at the Sun in 171 angstroms from the SDO. This is a 48-hour video. We see 0 sunspots, large filament setting in the northwest, some active regions rising on stereo A, and plenty of other things to cover. By the way, we are streaming live to Twitch. If you're not subscribed over there, check it out, twitch.tv/smAsho. Let's take a look at the fields. Here's the 171 angstroms view. There are the magnetic fields. Not a lot of organization happening there. One small organized zone there south of that filament, right where my pointer is. Here's 304 angstroms. Not a whole lot of filamentary behavior either. And let's move on. KP index is currently at 2. And the 10.7 centimeter radial flux has dropped all the way down to 67. Legit solar minimum conditions. And check out this article on SciTech Daily. A 10-year time-lapse has been released by the SDO. And here's the fast version of it. There's also a longer version of it, which is over an hour long. Again, on scitechdaily.com, and this is provided courtesy of the SDO. So there's 2012. Here's 2013, and so on. If you haven't checked that out, scitechdaily.com's got the goods. And here's a more detailed set of it here. And for something's going on with the full screen mode. I don't know what's up with it, folks. Anyway, there you go. A great time-lapse image. And when you see the sun go blank, it could be because of the moon going in between the SDO and the sun, or because of things like CCD bakeouts. So if you want to check that out again, it's incredible 10-year time-lapse of the sun from NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory. They won't talk in a stilted fashion like I will. By the way, the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard does allow you to zoom in various different ways. For instance, if you wanted to just look at, the solar cycles going back to 1958, you could make it look like the sun's declining in activity. Or if you go back to solar cycles going back to, how about 1830? It doesn't look like it's declining at all, does it? Okay, not the cherry-pick data, folks. Now, we see a comet here on the LASCO C3, so I figured I'd bring that up for you also. And I don't remember which comet it is. Spaceweather.com will tell you. Here, I'll let you know. It is Comet Neowise. So anyway, comet visible on the LASCO C3. If you want to check that out, look up the LASCO movie theater, and you can generate those images. Next, looking at the real-time solar wind, we see some coronal hole-looking magnetic connections here over the past couple of days. We see some U.S. earthquakes striking also. Current solar wind density has just recently dropped down to 6 protons per cubic centimeter or so. Actually make it 5. Solar wind speed up to 347 kilometers per second. Looks like it might be a weak coronal hole wind stream striking there. And the GOES proton flux is flatlined. No surprises there. And please bear with me one moment. By the way, if you are viewing live, leave us a comment. If you'd like to be involved in the coverage, we may pick up whatever you're commenting about. Next, looking at the GOES X-ray flux to see no kind of X-ray flaring happening. No surprises there, no sunspots. GOES magnetometer, there's the data from that. Looking fairly smooth, and we are still solidly in the South Pole current sheet. We'll show you that in a moment. Here's the line of sight magnetic environment here, the line of sight field plot, which is part of the National Sunspot Observatory. This data is from 51 ground-based magnetometers, as well as one on stereo A and stereo B. Might even be 2 on each of those. I'm not sure. I can't remember. Keep in mind the data is 1 hour and 24 minutes old. It's not showing any changes in the B field here significantly, which is shown in blue. And the magnetic environment can change with absolutely no warning. Here's the top view ecliptic plane field plot. And we do see evidence of some activity over here. And we'll show you a view from stereo A momentarily. Again, we are solidly in the South Pole current sheet shown here in red. And we are not expecting to leave for the next 24 hours. That's my forecast. Again, the data is 1 hour and 21 minutes old. Here's a view from stereo A, and it looks like there could be a sunspot rising up here in the south. Looks like more cycle 25 behavior to me. What say you? This is the 195 angstroms view from stereo A. And let's look at the geospace magnetosphere movies. It's a fairly steady magnetohydrodynamic pressure right now. And there's 4 hours of data, courtesy University of Michigan Geospace Model version 1.5. Next, we'll look at ground magnetic perturbations, and we don't see a particularly large amount of ground magnetic perturbations. There's 4 hours of data on that. Bear with that a moment as it refreshed. And I don't know if you're aware that we've got 2 north geomagnetic poles, and the South Pole has crept into the southern Indian Ocean off the Antarctic continent. Next, looking at X-ray flux, we see very low levels of electron flux, not X-ray flux. We see very low levels of electron flux, and they've been steadily low here for a couple of months. You can see this end of the graph here. Here's the past 3 days. And for you new viewers, the GOES 16 endeavors to measure the electron flux at the ionosphere layer. And we'll show you a diagram. We'll show you images of that too momentarily. And we see a slight rise in X-ray flux here the past day. And let's look at the total air column here. We see electron anomalies here over western Mexico. So you'll see at nighttime, you can see electrons there over the Caribbean, as well as significant electrons right there over western Mexico. Normally you get those around daytime in the noon, like around noon around the equator. And this will give you some indication of GPS errors. And here's the F2 ionosphere layer. This is 6 hours of data, courtesy Government of Australia Bureau Meteorology. And once again, the ionosphere is quite wobbly, and it's sort of all over the place and anomalous looking once again. Not quite as discharged as yesterday, it looks like. Let's bring up the latest image. And there it is. That one's at 7:30. Similarly discharged to yesterday, not quite as low as we're getting up to, it looks like 8 megahertz there in the northern hemisphere, just after noon, maybe 2 p.m. in places like the Middle East. Next, looking at a star chart to see if you're up before dawn. You should be able to see Jupiter and Saturn and Mars, and if you've got a low horizon, you may even see Venus rise before the Sun. The third brightest object in the sky. Here's where planets are in the solar system. And obviously that comet is someplace out in this area, sort of in this direction. To the right of the Sun from Earth's perspective, to the left of Venus, and to the right of Mercury. So that's where that comet is located right now. Here's where things will be in a week, assuming all goes according to plan. And it tends to go according to plan. I would note that all of the planets are on one side of the Sun right now, and there's a huge pileup including Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, Earth, Mercury, and Venus. Next, let's talk about some cosmology stuff. The X-ray images here. I would note that the red is the lowest energy levels, followed by yellow, then green, then blue, blue being the highest energy levels. A great X-ray image here of the galactic plane, showing you the Crab Pulsar, the Orion Nebula, the Vela supernova remnant, the Cygnus Loop, Cygnus X1, etc. If you want to check out this article, it's entitled Our Deepest View of the X-Ray Sky. It's on phys.org in the Astronomy and Space section. It took eRosita X-ray scope 182 days to come up with all that data. Over 1 million X-ray sources. And I'll just let the article scroll here. You can read it just by watching the video as a result. Again, this is available at phys.org in the Astronomy and Space section. So a new great all-sky map with lots of data, about 165 gigabytes of data. And so lots of zoomability will be available here. And it's always interesting to have different wavelengths to view cosmic phenomena. Let's talk about a fast radio burst. This one's located about 500 million light years away, and it's got an extremely cyclic pattern. Now, originally, fast radio bursts were believed to be associated with catastrophic events, but this one couldn't be a catastrophic event. It's probably something like a precessional rotation, or another theory is that there is a companion object. So, for instance, if you had a magnetar with another massive object orbiting it, or if said magnetar had a precessional wobble, that could be an explanation for the cyclicity of these fast radio bursts. This particular one is known as SGR 1935 plus 2154, and I'm not sure if the Neil Gorell Swift-Bat Observatory has it or not. Let's go check it out. And it's the dangers of doing live videos, folks. So just head to the Neil Gorell Swift-Bat Observatory. And the only object with a 1935 is this, and that is not the same object. So those transients are not on there. Let's just take a quick look at Cygnus X3 as it was dropping into a quiescent state. Let's see if it has turned up the juice once again. And indeed it has not. So Cygnus X3 has returned to a quiescent state here, one of the only known cosmic ray point sources. And that arrow down there in the bottom left coincides with that one up there, which is about the lowest levels that we see this object at. So about a week and a half ago, we saw some incredibly low levels of transients there. And if you want to study that stuff yourself, just head to the Neil Gorell Swift-Bat X-ray Observatory. Let's talk about the possibility of original water and new research into how water in places like subduction zones can affect earthquakes and tsunamis. Yes, it's true, folks. There's water in and water out happening in those subduction zones. And it raises interesting questions about where does the water come from? Does the water sink into those zones? Does it emanate from those zones? Does it cycle through those zones? Ultimately, the answer is that we don't know. So that should be all over the Science Wire today. And we've upgraded smashomash.com/forum. Not upgraded, we've updated. Smashomash.com/forum has a forum specifically about Earth and geophysics. And we've created a new topic here called Earthquake Studies. So this study brings up interesting hypotheses about original water. If you've never heard of original water, feel free to read about that. The possibility that water is being generated inside the Earth, which is one of the explanations as to how all the water got here. And it's not any crazier than the idea that water came from a comet or a planetary collision or transfer. So anyway, without getting too in-depth into that, feel free to contribute to this and any other threads in which you're interested. Thanks, website members. Please tell your friends, your foes, and your neutrals. Check it out. We got a large earthquake here striking California, just northwest of the Naval Air Weapons Center China Lake facility. It was a 5.8 magnitude near Lone Pine. And let's look at the last 24 full hours. So we see a little bit of an uptick here in earthquakes. For instance, here's a deep one at Guam. It's a 4.5 magnitude at 116 kilometers depth. Ecuador sees a deep quake. There you go. Western South America once again sees a 5.1 magnitude quake at 173 kilometers depth. There's that 5.8 at Lone Pine, California. Please leave us a comment if you felt that quake. Shout out to our Californian viewers. And we're just going to let the list scroll up here as we see a whole bunch of aftershocks in that region. And here's I think this is the largest of the past 24, folks. It's a 5.9 striking Japan near Hasaki. And that one came in at 1947 yesterday evening Universal Time. Also saw a quake there on the southern island of New Zealand. It's a 5.5 magnitude. And let's move on to volcanoes, as we see some new additions to the list, as well as some returning to a more quiescent state. Mount Abico is erupting, exploding, and producing a flight level of 14,000. Semeru, back on the list as it explodes, flight level 13,000 there. The alert level at Shishaldin and the Aleutian Islands has been decreased to background levels, and it's now a normal alert level, as it is still an active volcano. Turrialba, seismicity remains stable there. And ash emissions are associated with water due to heavy rainfalls during the past weeks. So, three small emissions of ash that lasted 5 to 15 minutes. Perhaps Turrialba ramping up to erupt again. Sangay exploding, flight level 20,000 there. Ravenador exploding, flight level 15,000 there. And Sabancaya is exploding, producing a 22,000 foot above sea level ash plume. Please do not fly your John Denver-style ultralight or hang glider over the caldera. It could prove to be unhealthful. Let's talk about cosmic rays real quick, and we're going to look at several monitors here. Here are Apatity and Barentsburg. So Apatity is a slight downtick over the past 30 days, and Barentsburg is a slight uptick over the past 30 days. Now, those are very far north. Here's a much more temperate located cosmic ray detector, the neutron monitor at Athens, and that shows a little bit larger range there, and it's quite flat on the past 30 days. Next, Mexico City. Mexico City's got a slight downtick over the past 30 days. And lastly, we'll look at Oulu and one Antarctican monitor. Here's Oulu, Finland. Pretty flat on the past 30 days. DOMB Antarctica is not sending data, but DOMC Antarctica is. At least some data. And it looks like it's stopped as well. So perhaps because of the Antarctican winter. Don't take our word for it about cosmic rays, folks. Look it up yourself. Just type in network of cosmic ray stations or links to cosmic ray data. And just head to that page and read all about it. Now let's talk about climate change. Oh yeah, you got to have some climate change. So, increased warming in latest generation of climate models likely caused by clouds. Now let me just explain something about clouds. Clouds are made out of water vapor primarily, and clouds cause the greenhouse effect. What does that mean? Well, generally in the daytime, clouds cause it to be cooler. Why? Because they reflect sunlight back into space. At nighttime, the greenhouse effect caused by clouds, as water vapor, and even condensed water on clouds is a massive greenhouse input, and a cloudy night makes for warmer temperatures. Have you noticed this, folks? When it's cloudy at night, temperature stays warmer. Similar in a desert. Deserts get very cold at night because the sky is typically clear. This is the greenhouse effect. Now, there are all kinds of different climate models going on right now, and there are all kinds of problems associated with them. As number one, cosmic ray flux is not figured into CMIP6's data set. And compared with other models, a subset of these updated models has showed a higher sensitivity to carbon dioxide, that is more warming for a given concentration of the greenhouse gas, though a few showed lower sensitivity as well. Why? Because they're just playing with models, folks. They're not even really looking at data. They're just putting models together, evaluating their sensitivity, and figuring out which ones look scary and spooky. Keep in mind all kinds of aspects of solar activity, as well as the lag time of the heat latency of the water in the oceans is not figured into any of these models. And just keep in mind, folks, have you ever gone to a doctor and had a doctor check your temperature by making you blow into a breathalyzer? What? No? No? A rectal thermometer works better? Yeah, I know. Well, it works better with the Earth, too, because you can measure the atmosphere all day, and you will not have the temperature of the planet, because the Earth's temperature is in the oceans, not in the atmosphere. The atmosphere contains less than 1% of the Earth's heat latency, and unlike water, air can change very, very suddenly. Water can't, which is why it lags solar activity by a couple of years. So in any case, let's just read a quote here. I have no idea what this will be. I'm going out on a limb. Cloud aerosol interactions are on the bleeding edge of how we're bleeding money to study things that we don't understand. Cloud aerosol interactions are on the bleeding edge of our comprehension of how the climate system works, and it's a challenge to model what we don't understand. At least they're admitting they don't understand it. The modelers are pushing the boundaries of human understanding. I am hopeful this uncertainty will motivate new science. Let's look at some actual data here. Here's the current state of affairs as far as pressure cells goes. Pressure cells go. We'll let this advance into the GFS forecast about 24 hours. And we see a pretty stagnant anticyclone here just west of the Azores in the North Atlantic. Here's where we expect things to be at 12 noon tomorrow, my time, as that anticyclone persistently remains there over the North Atlantic. And by the way, anticyclones will show you a clockwise rotation in the northern hemisphere or a counterclockwise rotation in the southern hemisphere, as you can see there. And I'm going to take control of my computer back, Wendy, whether you like it or not. Let's talk about Saharan Dust. There it is, folks. And one of the cool things about Null School is that you can put all kinds of different modes in here. So you can look at the air, the ocean. You can even look at space and figure out what the auroras will look like. And there you can see this massive double plume of dust here crossing the Atlantic. It's creating low air quality alerts in places like Florida. Let's go back to the normal thing we usually look at. It's the jet streams. So here are the jet streams. Keep in mind, Saharan dust reduces the likelihood of things like tropical storms and hurricanes. And we've talked many times on this channel about the way dry air weakens hurricanes. Anyway, there are the jet streams of the west. Check out the extreme meridional flow right here. A nearly south to north flow is going to create some warm temperatures in places like Ireland. Next, looking at the eastern world's jet streams, there you have those. And we've got some extreme cold air striking southern Madagascar here, straight out of Antarctica, basically. And let's move on. Here's an article about the Saharan dust as it is visible from the space station. And we don't usually cover popular science because it's full of such popular nonsense. 5 wild facts about the Saharan dust plume before it hits the U.S. Now that came out yesterday. It's on the way, folks, and it's extra dense this year. So it will aggravate pre-existing conditions. It will suppress hurricanes and tropical storms. Particles will make the skies more colorful, so sunrise and sunset will look better. It'll fertilize the Amazon rainforest, and indeed your garden once it gets to where you are. And the same dust cloud transformed the Bahamas into the glorious ecosystem it is today. Did you know? I did not know that one. Anyway, that article's on Popular Science. Let's look at the current state of affairs for water vapor here over Africa and Europe. Water vapor over the Far East and Oceania. How about lightning maps? I like to use lightningmaps.org when I hear thunder. Perhaps you want to check it out yourself. You could tell your foes that you're actually Thor. Maybe freak them out. It looks like there's some lightning striking west of Kansas City. Nothing too crazy there. I did see some strikes happening here east of Italy. Yeah, lightningmaps.org. It's good times. Next, the U.S. Doppler radar map. And there you have that data during our value-added services. Here's the U.S. water vapor map. And we're getting some cooler temperatures now here in Pennsylvania as the jet stream pushes some cold Canadian air down across the Great Lakes. And let's take a look at this convergence zone over Kansas. Shout out to Tony Heller and Toto on the web for talking about real information instead of total nonsense and propaganda. Anyway, there's that convergence zone. If you're wondering what the weather will do, this should give you insight. If you don't know what it is, it's the NASA GOES interactive weather satellites. And we like to look at it daily. Did you watch our Smash Lights yesterday? Are you confused about why there was no daily space weather video yesterday on YouTube? Well, I'll tell you why right now. It's because the video was mysteriously deleted. So if you saw that we deleted the video, guess what? We didn't delete the video. We have all kinds of screenshots to preserve as evidence, possibly to present to attorneys, because there are considerations for lawsuits. Please check out smashomash.com/forum. Set up a login if you want to contribute. smashomash.com/forum. Thanks for everybody over there. And let's talk about China. 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 We're talking about China. China. Hey, don't be hanging over my head like that. 3, 2, 1. You are out of here. Actually, you're not out of here. You're still dominating the news headlines. So get ready for the alarmism to continue, folks. Oh my God, there's a second wave because the first one was so spooky. Turns out without masks, experts predict 180,000 COVID-19 deaths. OMG, pandemic expected to barely dent summer road trips. AAA says, you Americans are so irresponsible, you're just going to be going out there killing grandma. If you want to read more propaganda, head to USA Today. And here are the headlines from CNBC. Dow futures predicted to open. The Dow Jones is predicted to open at nearly 400 points below the nearly. We'll just say 367 points down. That's good enough. Biden's big lead in the polls could be partly behind the market's drop and may lead to more weakness. Yeah, the markets, they're not a fan of larger governments. So it looks like there's some purchasing happening in bonds once again as we see the 10-year down. Oil at 37.14. And the U.S. has broken the single-day record for the most coronavirus cases. And let's just talk about that for a minute. Oh, great. The Fed said it could supply the economy with $2.3 trillion. It hasn't come close so far. Well, gee, how about some more helicopter money? You think that's going to devalue your dollars, folks? Now, keep in mind, inflation hurts the poor and the elderly more than anybody else because of things like savings and income and so on. Anyway, let's move on here to talk about whether or not you should press like and subscribe on YouTube. I don't know. If you enjoy the content, feel free. And you may want to check us out on BitChute as well, since this YouTube channel could be set to private or just straight up deleted with absolutely no warning, just like yesterday's daily space weather video, which again, we did not delete. It was deleted mysteriously, probably by somebody at YouTube, maybe because we had the word news in the title. I just simply don't care. So it is still available over here at bitchute.com/smashomash. And yesterday's title was Coronal Mass Ejection. Pathetic! Journalism foments fake news racism and noose. Quote, noose, end quote. Hey, Smash team, thanks for tuning in. Please don't forget to share the content on your social media. Leave us a comment, whether you're a friend or a foe or a neutral. We appreciate all of you. And thanks for flying American Smashways. Please keep your head Please keep your head and arms inside the smash plane at all times. times as we provide a couple of bonus features. Here's the intensitygram of the local yellow dwarf, showing you a 0 sunspots. Here is the colorized magnetogram of the local yellow dwarf, and we've just hit refresh, and we don't see any particular magnetic organization happening. And thank you for loading, SDO. Cheers. And last but not least, let's look at a 48-hour view from the SDO in 94 angstroms, one of my personal favorite wavelengths. And we'll just wait and wait and wait for this to load. What say you? Let's take this moment to take a look at the chat and see if anybody's left any comments, and indeed they haven't. So leave us comments on Memorex since you haven't done it live. And head over there and subscribe over at twitch.tv/smAsho if you want to see the content when it comes out immediately. And by the way, the reason that we stream over there is because the platform is so good. And this is not loading, and I'm giving up. I might even give up on YouTube forever because it sucks. And it's rife with censorship and propaganda, and YouTube/Google/Alphabet promotes all kinds of nonsense and BS on YouTube. So there's all kinds of people claiming that aliens are inside of clouds and birds are projections of aliens, and OMG, I don't even understand what lens flare is, so it must be Nibiru, and I'm looking at the sun, and all kinds of other nonsense. Pages that have six-figure levels of subscribers and are making tens of thousands of dollars per month are promoted by YouTube while our videos get deleted. So hey, Eric Schmidt and Sergey Brin and Susan Wojcicki and Larry Page and the rest of you hacks on the internet, good luck. I highly suggest that you liquidate your assets, move them to Seychelles, and move to a country with no extradition treaties to the U.S. Because guess what? You dudes are gonna pay for your meddling in information itself. Good luck with getting away from it. There's nowhere to hide. There are no bases on Mars yet. You better hope that some form there. There won't be an extradition treaty from Mars. Anyway, everybody, thanks for tuning into the Daily Space Weather. Remember not to believe all the nonsense you read on the internet. Remember to stare at the sun. Attempt to understand the physics. Don't drink, and if you do, don't drive, no matter how much the internet, governments, corporations, and NGOs drive you to want to drink. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back, and those COVIDiots absent from existence.